Welcome to Season 3 of John McGivern's Main Streets.
Who doesn't love a good doodad? Me!
The Main Streets podcast takes you behind the scenes of this popular TV program. To watch the show, check your local PBS listings or stream for free on the PBS video app, Roku, Apple TV, smart TVs, and everywhere you stream video. As we explore great communities across the Midwest on the show each week, you can come here to get the inside scoop from hosts John and Emmy and the Main Streets producer and director Lois Maurer. Listen in as they recount some of their favorite memories from the locations and the interesting stories that you won't find anywhere else. We've got a lot to share with you from Season 3. John McGivern's Main Streets, produced by Plum Media in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
We're back. We're talking about episode 2 of season 3. We were in Davenport, Iowa. I'm here again with Lois Maurer, our executive producer, director, creator, and my co-host, Emmy Fink. How are you guys?
We're good.
Good.
Oh, good.
Davenport.
Which I'll tell you all a little secret was
Yeah.
actually the first episode we shot this season, but the second episode to air because we don't always shoot in air order. So
Right.
this episode, Davenport,
Was
was
our
the first
day
time
back.
I know that we went out all with our crew, and Emmy is on location every episode now, and our new shooter Brian was with us, and
And if you
So-
notice, you'll notice when you watch this episode that my voice was really
That's
thin
right.
because 2 days before I had no voice. So I call Lois, and this doesn't happen to me much. It's happened to me in my career as an actor twice, and I've been an actor for 40 years. So I call Lois 2 days before, and I was like, I don't have a voice. And Lois says, you can whisper. We'll see you there. There was no
season's
rearrangement.
planned. I can't
Right.
reschedule
You
it
can't
now.
get sick.
You can't get sick.
So I did my best, and I liked Davenport. How did we pick Davenport? Because we wanted to do one of the Quad Cities, right?
Yeah, and so which of the Quad Cities you're going to do?
The big one.
The big one, and I wanted to do the one on the Iowa side, to be honest with you.
Oh.
Because I want to do Iowa and Illinois, and so I want to come back to the Quad Cities in another season.
Oh, go
And
to another
so
state.
I could do it exactly.
Yes.
Now I could do it in Illinois, so that'll work.
Favorite things in Iowa? Did you have one, Emmy?
Well, in Davenport, because there's a lot of Iowa.
Oh, I mean in Davenport.
Yeah, that episode.
I mean, just coming into town, I remember specifically that great, big, beautiful, like amusement park by the ball field.
Yeah.
And just how pretty that was.
Modern Woodman Park is what it's called.
And Woodmen are the ball players.
That's the name of their team, too. Yeah.
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 They weren't playing when we were there because it was early season.
Yeah.
But it's a beautiful park and right on the river. Yeah.
Which was a little concerning because before we got there, 2 weeks before, it was all underwater. If you remember, they had bad flooding this spring.
And there were still
so
sandbags.
I was watching the weather like crazy, trying to figure out, are we going to have, much less your voice. I was thinking, is Davenport going to be underwater?
Right.
So, yeah, you're right. In some of the shots, look, you're going to see sandbags, but I was grateful that
But don't worry, Lois called Davenport and said, take care of that, we're coming. And then
She throws her name around. She gets a lot.
Then she talked to
yeah,
God and said,
yeah,
no
right.
more rain because it all worked out.
yeah, that and a big giant bribe would get us. No, it was a little nerve-wracking getting in there because a lot of the stuff we did was right on the river. So, like you said, Modern Woodman Park's right there. The restaurant that we chose is right there. That's called the Taste of Ethiopia. And wasn't that good, John?
She was so great.
Yeah,
And
absolutely great.
she every culture has its bread, so she allowed me to find her secrets, and she shared how to make this bread. We made it. It's like a crepe sort of bread, and we went into the kitchen and made it. And then she made this entire platter of generally how of whatever they all this fresh vegetables and done in a way that my Irish mother never did, and it was I thought it was delicious.
I'm guessing he took more than one bite of
I
this.
did.
He did.
That's when you know you
This was
really
early in the
likes it.
season before he really got a hang of his resolve.
Right.
So this was episode 1. And
But
he
it was
still
vegetables. It was
susceptible.
like, oh my God, I can
Yeah.
eat this, can I? I
Yeah.
don't care if it's in a cream sauce.
No, and watching them make the injera was amazing.
Injera, that's what it was called.
Yeah, injera, and
That's
she
what
does
it's
it
called?
one at a time. So,
She does it quickly.
yeah, you
Yeah.
weren't quite as...
No. My first day in the job was. And a cute little restaurant that used to be part of a park system, I believe, wasn't? No,
It was part of the train station,
Train
wasn't it?
station, that's what it was.
Yeah, I think it was a depot at some
Yeah.
point, and so it's really cute, right down there by the river. She was delightful. Then the Visitors Bureau happens to be right next door to that, the Visitor Center, so we spent Brian and I did anyway, spent a little time in there, and then the Art Museum is there, and that bridge that goes across is, their pedestrian bridge is really cool to look at, so. We had
Figgy Art Museum.
Yeah.
We
the Figgy.
did a tour of that.
You did
and
some art in that art museum, as a matter of fact. Do you recall?
I certainly do. I did a watercolor,
Yeah.
which I was like, this is going to be, it was the best.
Really?
No, I'm telling you.
Yeah.
First of all, this instructor, and you'll see in the episode what I ended up painting. And I, of course, showed this. We were watching these episodes this week up at the cottage, and Tammy was like, "You did not paint that." I said, "I painted that."
Did
I
you
did.
Bob Ross the heck out of that thing?
I have no idea.
Oh, I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, that was great. I loved the tour of that museum, and I loved being able to do that with that class. And it was people from all ages.
Oh,
And
cool. So you
I
were
took a
actually
class.
in a class.
Yeah,
That's
was.
fun.
that
That's
was
really
great.
fun. I loved being down, was it the East Village, where we did our segment. So new this year is that instead of another interview where you go and interview a person in the community, John and I are doing an interview together, which has been really fun. And
It
for
has been.
this one, it was like really not scripted. It was kind of like you're gonna kind of just walk along this beautiful historic part of town and just chit chat, which is really fun. It's like these.
Right.
Is it better than when it's scripted out and you know what you're going to say?
Yeah, I think so, because there's just more room for fun and spontaneity.
Oh, good, because we're doing that again next week.
See?
Yeah.
I love it.
It'll be fun on Friday. We're doing it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, yeah.
Well,
that
the
was
East
fun.
Village has a lot of interesting places. Do you remember the artist that you interviewed there, Tom?
Sure. He makes kaleidoscopes.
Which, can I tell you, we've been doing this kind of show for a lot of years, and this is the first kaleidoscope maker that we've ever featured, and he has kaleidoscopes 7 feet tall. You have to see it. I can't even explain it. It's so cool.
I got to come along on that one because it was the first thing we did that morning.
Right.
And then we were going to start filming down there. And I mean, he was cool, but his shop was cool. I bought an old clock from him. I brought it home and Seth was like, this clock weighs 100 pounds. I need to find a stud and get my stud finder. And I'm like, I don't care what you got to find. Get
it
it up
up.
there and make sure it doesn't ever fall. And so every
Is it
time I
running
look,
well?
it looks, yes, and it looks beautiful. Every time I look up, I'm like, oh, my Davenport
Nice.
find.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the other thing I didn't know about Davenport until we did the research is that the Palmer School of Chiropractic is there.
I knew that.
How did you know?
I knew that because I had a friend who was a newscaster in Chicago who left newscasting and went to Palmer College to become a chiropractor. She was like, the news business is not for me. She says, I need to do something that's real.
Good for her.
And now she's a chiropractor she's in Des Moines, in fact, but she went to school. She went to school there, and it's the oldest chiropractic school in the country.
Yeah, it wasn't even like a thing, right? When the gentleman who started at Mr. Palmer started chiropractic, and then his son also followed in his footsteps and built a house that is on that campus that this is another place you got to see to believe. And did you get to go there, Emmy, to the Palmer house?
He did some collecting.
Really?
Him and his wife love to travel the world and bring stuff back.
And it's all in the house.
It's all in the
all in
house.
there.
Wow.
It's like you walk in and say, this is either really great or that guy was nuts.
And
I
you
think-
like to collect things, so like that's,
I know.
and antiques
Well, it made
and
me
pieces.
it made me go home and
evaluate your collection.
It's like, oh, am I turning into the Palmer House?
A little hoarding. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but he had stuff like the last chess set of Tsar Nicholas of Russia.
Before the family was murdered, they were playing chess, and that's the chess set they were playing with.
Now that's an urban legend. Come
that's
on,
a
they
little
were
heavy.
not. Yeah,
Wow.
right.
Well, it's not the
Interesting.
day of. It's not
It was
like,
the night before.
right.
Okay, sorry.
Checkmate, boom.
And then Mr. Palmer said, "May I have that chess set?"
Oh, man.
But that house was really, talk about uncommon, and the school keeps it in that state, and they preserve all the stuff that's in it, and so it makes for really good TV too.
What made best TV, I think, is when we went to Sears seating. Sears, and it's not Sears and Roebuck, it's Sears, and they make heavy equipment, farm equipment, trucks, the seats that go into
like in
all
tractors.
of those.
Okay.
In tractors.
Wow.
And they have a testing area where it's completely, they have it hooked up to machines, and you go and buckle up on these seats, and then there's a guy in a control booth who will take you, let's say, on a field that. Well, he took me on a ride on that seat.
Like a field.
Well, it was like, what I was like, what are they?
They record the data in real instances. So they might be in a field in Idaho
Sure.
after a rain where it gets stuck in the mud and then goes over the hills, and they record all this. So they have incredible data points from all over the world and in all different conditions, and they can program it in and say, okay, how would this seat perform in that Idaho potato field after, a rain? But getting John in there, I didn't even have to really sell it, which, can I tell you, I was surprised, John, because I thought with your motion sickness, you were going to say, I'm not going in there. And the first thing when we walked in there, he was like, well, yeah, I'm getting up there. And I was like, uh-oh.
You climb this steep ladder, and then you sit on this big seat. And the guy who ran that laboratory was sitting next to me, and he was like, are you buckle up, because here we're going to go. I'm like, oh yeah, right. And then all of a sudden I was like, what are they plowing that I'm about ready to be, flown off? I mean, it was kind of unbelievable. Oh, thank you. Hey, wait up.
This is an ag tractor ride file.
What are they plowing?
So we ride this.
I live in the city. Whoa, Nelly.
Wow.
It was so good.
It was like a bucking bronco ride. John was all
I was like,
Giddy up.
this is a ride. Yeah.
That's
Sears, that was called. I'm glad we got in there.
Yeah,
and
that
that's
was
one of
pretty
those
cool.
things. I always love getting into manufacturing or industry, and I was so thrilled that we got to go there. Can anybody talk? Did you go to Isabel Bloom, Emmy?
No.
Oh, talk about it, Lo.
Well, I went on the site survey when we first went because a friend of mine who had spent great time in Davenport talked about having an Isabel Bloom. Now, an Isabel Bloom to me said, okay, I know it's art. Is it a painting? Is it, So you go into Isabel Bloom and it's ceramics that you find in yards. Okay, she's got angels, she's got frogs, but it's all made out of this special cement that Isabel invented that does not decay. It doesn't, it doesn't degrade over time.
Mm-hmm.
They paint it, it holds its color, and they make all these different, characters, right?
You've
Nicole?
seen them everywhere your
have.
whole life.
You have, and you just don't know it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's an Isabel Bloom.
And so in the factory/store, they're actually making them. So we got to watch him pour the molds, and John got to see him painting, and it was really kind of cool, didn't you think?
I did. I did.
I did too.
Yeah.
This show teaches me so much. I mean, first of all, I don't usually know where you're going when I'm not there because I don't read your parts, and I know you don't read mine. We read what we have
no,
to
I
do
do read
together.
yours.
You don't. You are so lying right
Emmy,
now.
I read yours.
Oh, BS, McGivern. That is bogus. Anyway, but
Because
there's
I
been
care, Emmy.
so many times I'm like, oh goodness, I have to Google this because I don't know what this means, or just this. The whole show teaches me so much. Now I know what an Isabel Bloom is.
Yeah.
Well, how about Bix Beiderbecke?
Oh,
Do you know what that is?
Well, I do. Yes, he played with Louis Armstrong and had a very short life, but has a museum dedicated to his work.
And the instrument he played?
Oh, it's the small trumpet. It is what's the small trumpet? Come on, John. You know it all.
A trumpetta. A trumpatello.
Dang it, Lois. What is it?
Cornet.
Cornet.
Oh, cornet?
No, he was totally a cornet player, and he played with Louis Armstrong, and he had this incredible reputation and died at 28.
Incredible reputation, and was kind of like a ladies' man, and then like met the woman of his dreams.
And died.
And yes, and then died. It's very sad. Do you remember how pretty their high school was? When we walked in and it had the beautiful marble pillars, and it
Yes.
looked like it could have been a state capitol, and it's their high school. I mean,
And it was probably built in the early 1900s.
Oh,
You know,
my
the beautiful
goodness.
terrazzo and beautiful floors. And of course, school was still in at that point, wasn't it?
I don't know. We were there on a Saturday. Remember? We were there on a Saturday.
Oh, and you had to get special permission to go in to see the
yeah,
golden
the principal
footballs.
had to come in
Yeah,
and let us
yeah.
in, and
And you had to borrow a bike from them because of
we did
Ragbri,
Ragbri.
right? Yes,
The
Ragbri.
Register's Great American Bike Ride Across Iowa, something like that.
Des Moines Register is the paper, and so it's
Yeah.
the registers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. I guess he does read my parts. I stand corrected.
And where does it go
Stop.
from? Goes from where to where?
It goes from
Here to there.
across Iowa, Mississippi.
It starts at the Missouri
Right?
and
Yes.
ends in the
At the
Mississippi.
Mississippi.
Yes.
That's
And
what it-
this year, it happened to end in Davenport. So it was fun to be able to cover that, too.
would you go back?
Yes. I
Yeah.
want to go back to the little bar that Gail and I did some bourbon tasting at. We had a great time the first night. We got there. It
Where was I?
you and Brian? It was one
I
of
had
those
to
nights
work.
you were working till
Yes.
like 8:30. Lois and Brian really,
Have to work.
You really do. You make hay while the sun shines.
And the sun shines till 8:30.
Yep.
I know, because I'm waiting for it to go down. Because it's bedtime, kids.
Do we have a shout out?
We do. We have a, so this is new this season on our podcast. We have a fan favorite because they follow us on social media. And this week, we want to thank John Tenney from Green Bay, Wisconsin. Thanks so much for following us. And keep watching the show. We appreciate it.
We love our Wisconsin folks.
We sure do.
I mean, they might be our favorite.
Okay, guys, we'll see you next week. Is that right?
Yes.
Emmy, are you still talking?
Sorry, cut it out. Lois.
See you next week, you guys. Want to wear something that's going to support your favorite show? Shop at Main Street Store. Proceeds go to help us get next season into production, so come on, go shopping at mainstreets.tv.